I think it says it's recording. Yeah, okay, we are now good to go. So yeah, welcome to the KBBA 2023 Q&A. There's a number of things which I will quickly go over, and then obviously this is a platform for you to ask me any questions that are pertinent to what you are doing for your bid and entry. But there are some rather basic questions which hopefully I can answer, and then we will take this on a little bit further. So one of the most basic questions is, does my business need to be registered in the Borough of Kingston? And the question is really, the answer to that is that the company should be based or primarily doing business within the Borough of Kingston. When I do say Kingston, for those who hear me a lot, I do say we are Chessington, New Malden, Surbiton, Tolworth, and so Tolworth and Chessington, Kingston. Yeah, all of them together. It's not just about Kingston, the town centre. So it's the whole borough. And primarily doing business, it could mean sort of you're contributing directly to the growth of the borough. So you could be a chamber member, you could be doing particular projects. You may not be living in Kingston, but you're working in that community. So that would allow you to be registered in the borough. I would only use this, and I'm not trying to pick on Claire but Claire is actually here, but Claire actually lives in Worcester Park, is slightly beyond. But Claire has done a particular project to help with the high street recovery in New Malden. So that entitles her to be able to go into this awards because she's contributed directly into an activity in the borough. I hope that helps because that's one of the most confusing elements. In the past couple of years, some people have sort of said, I don't live in the borough, I'm not necessarily registered. We've tried to broaden this up so anybody who contributes can be a part of this awards program. The next basic question is, when is the deadline? It sounds very simple, but people often ask it. It is December the 9th, which is a Friday. So by the close of Friday the 9th, that is when the awards will close. There is probability that there will be an extension going into the beginning of the following week, but it will only be up by a day or two. So it would give a little bit more flexibility. So realistically, I would say between everybody here, it could be around the 9th, 10th, 11th, about the 12th. Then we'll definitely close it, and it will be by midnight of that particular day. Is there a file upload limit? Each file, you can send in various files. You can send in PDFs, you can send in a link, a video link of some work that you've done, but each file must not exceed 5 meg. So keep that under that level, please. Supporting materials can be provided in a Word document, a PDF, a JPEG. Zip files and videos, pardon me, videos cannot be accepted. So don't send your video, but you can send a link, please. The word count, again, a lot of people, in fact, I got a question last night about the word count. Each section will show you what the word count is. It is generally around 300 to 400 words. That doesn't mean you have to fill that all up, but that is the limit. I will go on to the entry tips because that is quite particular to the word count, but that's the word count. It's about 400, but each category, when you go through the questions, will say this is the limit. Is there a limit to the number of entries I can submit? No, there isn't, but you can enter multiple categories because there's some areas which do blend from one area to another. So for example, the best business provider is essentially for businesses, a lot of chamber members who work and support other different businesses. So you are a business provider. But say, for example, again, Claire, she could also have done something in the marketing campaign. So she can put an entry into both of those categories. The top tip, though, is you don't need to reinvent the wheel for every single entry. the bulk of that content is possibly going to be applicable to that different category. Just top and tail it, so the beginning and the end, make it relevant to that category. But from what we understood from a lot of the entries last year, the bulk of the content is going to be applicable. So you can enter a number of different categories. That's the essential kind of the basics. The entry top tips. Always link your aims and objectives to your results. So when you're putting in an entry, always think, okay, what are my objectives? Am I actually answering this question? Honestly, in the last year, a lot of people don't look at things as well as they used to, and they think, oh, this is what I want to put in. And it's not actually answering the question which is there. So do look carefully at the question and think, right, I need to tailor my answer to that question. And another important thing is always assume that you are explaining this to someone who has no idea what you do. Treat it as if they've got no familiarity with your work, no familiarity with software, with bees for Mark and for Lawrence. Assume that you're talking to somebody on the street. How would you sell what you do to them, and make it really clear? And in the same way, avoid jargon. Don't use acronyms. Don't use language which is familiar in your world, but for a judge, it's not so familiar. So be careful with that. Another top tip is always quote real figures. In the past, we have seen people who have sort of said, well, we anticipate 80% growth. It has to be realistic. It should be practical, but use figures. There's things called infographics, which are graphic charts, which may explain the story. That's a very good idea to put in. We saw some of those last time. And the golden thing, if you can do this, is to use client quotes or testimonials. They go a long, long way. So if you can get that, it's a good idea to supplement your story with a quote or a testimonial from a customer. I'm going to stop now for a minute and ask if there's any immediate questions. Just because my screen is relatively limited, you just unmute yourself and chip in. It's silent. I couldn't have answered all the questions.
Few.
Oh, thank you, Claire. That's life.
I have looked at this yesterday, so yeah. So obviously I'm a graphic designer, for those who don't know me, and so the results, it's not something that I've got tons of figures for, so I'm just wondering if there's any tips on other ways to sort of show results and evaluation.
Good. Yeah, no, it's a good question. I think you're absolutely right. It's not always going to be applicable that you will get, say, a figure or something like that.
Some are easier than others.
In terms of, I'll only broadly reference it into the project you've done because it's possibly relatable to everybody else, is you can look at sort of the timelines are met, the deliverables were met. You can say the client feedback, you can say that and you can say it made a difference down the high street. It gave a clearer, you need to kind of verbalize and demonstrate in that way what the results were to try and make it tangible. So you actually explain, actually what it did was you could see the bright yellows and the greens going down the high street. It brought the messages through to different people. All of this really is, I don't mean to sound glib with this at all, but it is telling a story. It is trying to convey actually the maximum impact of your story and your work. So you need to be honest, you need to be direct with this, but actually, and use your own language. You don't pretend to be somebody else that you aren't. Put it in your own voice, and honestly that actually makes a big difference. So yes, as Claire's original point, if you don't have facts, try and verbalize the difference you saw, and if you can say the client was happy, they felt as if the service was good, the software made a big difference, and if you can start demonstrating that, that would help. Does that answer your question a little bit?
Yeah, that's really helpful. Thank you.
Thank you, Claire. I'll go to Mark and then to Catherine. Mark.
Yeah, hi. Can you all hear us okay?
Loud and clear this end, yeah.
Okay, good, yeah. Some of the project I've got, which I'm going to be putting in for an award for, was part funded by a Kingston Raise grant. So does that help the award, or does that count against it? Or because there's a lot of results that are going to be cross-verified by the Raise people at the Kingston Council. So a lot of that success or justification, qualification of success would be via that sort of submission. So would that help the award?
I think, thank you for asking that. I think it's a matter of being transparent with it. If you've, and I understand the Raise funding and how you've done it, you've earned that Raise grant on pure merit. So there's obviously faith and belief in what you're doing. Yeah. As long as you are transparent with that and explain it, it doesn't make a difference at all.
Okay, that's cool. Yeah.
Thank you, Mark.
Yeah.
Catherine Gray.
Yes. Hello. I just want to check, you were talking about reviews and client testimonials. So will the judges have access to our websites, etc.? So for example, if I direct them to our Google reviews and our Trustpilot reviews, will they be able to access those without us then including them all within the application?
Good question. Yes, they can. I would, however, try and make it as easy as possible for the judge to access it and to go to the particular point in the website. I think if you were just to put, here's our website, and then the judge has to kind of navigate and go around the website to find out where testimonials might be, it depends on your website, but make it as easy and as accessible as possible is what I'd say. But yeah, in theory, to what you've said, yes, that's absolutely fine.
Thank you.
Thank you, Catherine. Any other thoughts or questions? Silence.
Oh, sorry.
You can ask another question, Claire.
I'm possibly going to do the business provider one, and it's quite generic, sort of general in terms of, obviously I have a lot of clients that I work with. I'm probably going to answer my own question now, but I'm presuming if I give 2 or 3 examples that I follow through on all the questions, it's better to keep to those examples all the way through, really, just to kind of make it easy on the judges to understand. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, yes, I would. I keep that consistency going through it.
I'll try to keep it to 2 and 3, and then yeah, that kind of makes sense.
The bottom line, as I said, it is about storytelling. It is saying what you do, but it's trying to really convince the judge that to kind of surprise them, to lift them up a little bit and think, good, I had no idea that was what's going on, and to see the tangible benefits. I think that's what the judges will always look at, is what was the benefit, what was different, what was a little bit different, what was that element of surprise, but just what is the clear benefit of the work and the project? What did it actually do? And what difference did it make to the people that it was providing to? And in all honesty, I mean, we hosted this for the first time this year, and the breadth and diversity of businesses. This isn't about how big you are. This isn't about sort of, I've got lots of funding, I've got no funding. It is all about, it's the smallest of margins can make a big difference. And we've seen this in quite a few of the categories. We had a number of larger businesses, and we had a lot of smaller micros, and that's from 1 people to 2 people to 5 people. Those businesses told a story, and the judges came away thinking, we just had no idea this is what was going on in the borough. So it's just putting that sort of, and making it feel very human, making it very tangible. Somebody can feel, God, that actually made a difference. I mean, I know Andy and his work, Beyond Blocks, he's probably got loads of stories going on because there's such a close connection between what he does and what somebody gets out of it. So, yeah. And sometimes, I mean, this process is quite revealing. I think sometimes we've heard it from several people, is that they actually just realize, actually, do you know what? It was a great chance to sit down, think about what we've been doing, and think, do you know, we're doing more than we give ourselves credit for. And I think there's an element of being modest, being humble, but equally shout out what you've done, because as the chief exec of the chamber, I see it. I saw it yesterday. Claire was at the networking, and you just realize, wow, the impact which everybody's making does have a bit of a difference. So this isn't the time to be modest. That's what I'd just say. Lawrence.
My question is, what's the time span in the past should we frame our stories in?
That is a good question. I'm trying to think back to the original. I think it is, what are we? This year is going by so slowly. Oh, Lawrence, you've asked a good question.
Or frame it in a different way. Say, last year when we applied to...
I believe this is
we
actually...
talked about, sorry.
Yeah.
Some stories. Can we reuse part of it?
If it is relevant, yes. If it is relevant and still has a knock on to this year, I actually, thinking about it, it's from November last year. This period continues. It's from November to the end of November, yeah. So it's from the end of November 21 through to almost the end of November this year.
Okay, so it's
that's the time frame.
About a year's time.
As long as it's relevant.
Okay, thank you.
Andy.
Hi, sorry, latecomers question. Can we answer more than one? Can we enter more than one category?
Yes, you certainly can.
Okay, super. That was an easy one.
Yeah.
And thank you for the suggestions, because it's the sort of thing where I've been looking and going, oh, I wonder what I should do. I really need to get round to writing this. How long should it take, like, to actually do this sort of thing? Because I need to allocate some time and really concentrate.
Yeah, no, that's that's another good common question, actually. I'm not going to say this is how long is a piece of string, because that's a bloody useless bit of advice. But I would say on and off, if you were to kind of do it on and off, I would say around 3 hours. 3 to maybe 4 hours. It depends on the resourcing of the information that you want to put into it. It depends where you have things centralized. You may think, you know, I've got this file here, I've got that file there, I've got a testimonial here, and you may have that readily at hand. I think if it's readily at hand, I would say it could be 2 to 3 hours. It depends how comfortable you are with language and how you want to phrase it. Again, the other thing about the portal is that you can say, well, I'll do a couple of hours today. I'll do a couple of hours tomorrow. I'll do a couple of hours on Sunday. You can go backwards and forwards up until you actually submit it to update it and change it. So it's not fixed in stone. You can go back after day 3 and think, oh, that's a load of rubbish, and start again. It's not a problem.
Okay, thank you very much. That sounds like a realistic time frame to me, Forbes.
We've tried to make this fair for your time, because you're all very busy people. We've tried to not make the questions about your finances in any way. They're not about that. It's not about the size of your budgets. It's not asking for private information like that, but it does ask for a bit of transparency. But each question, each category rather, there's around 4 criteria, but it's fairly clearly laid out. And that's why I'm saying some questions have a commonality across different categories. So that's why you can take bits and think, do you know, that's still relatable to another category. The other thing, and I know that Mark and Lawrence, you've got another 2 questions. to let you know in terms of the judging, because some people think, God, is the same judge going to be looking at each of these different categories? What we initiated last year is that we get 3 judges, independent judges, will look at each category. There will be a judge, if not 2, hopefully all 3, will have experience of those particular categories. In the past, we've had a lot of bad feedback that an inappropriate judge in terms of their experience was judging on a particular category. So we have ensured by having around 17 judges from the university, from the college, from the Unilever, from a whole range of our sponsors, from the voluntary sector, they all have relevancy with the work in these categories. So you are going to be judged by people who know what you broadly do. So that will make it fair. So anybody who's, Rob, say they're with sustainable issues, we have got sustainable judges who understand that language and what you're trying to do. But there are 3 independent judges. They will be reading what you submit independently. They will score it independently, and then the scores will be tallied up. And then when we come to the judging day, they will be asked, are you happy with these results?
Okay.
So I hope that helps as well. Mark, you've got a follow-up question.
Yeah, just a very quick one, actually. You mentioned about the limits on the sizes of stuff that can be uploaded. First question, it says add a link or video. So it does say you can upload a video, actually.
Yes, pardon me. I meant when I was saying a little bit earlier, it was not, do not send a compressed folder with the video, because that can be like 600 meg. So if you can send a link, that is fine. Just don't send the video as a compressed folder.
Right, so an ordinary video, like 30 seconds long, it will take that.
Yes.
Right.
And I would actually say, if there is anything like that, that can be very useful, and certainly possibly in your work, that probably tells a good story in itself.
Yeah, there's a lot of video stuff that I've got, but also above it says attachments, and you mentioned about being able to upload a Word document. Is there any maximum size to the Word document? Because if you go and paste in any photos, that dramatically, you know, with HD phones these days, you can have 5 megs worth of one photo. So is there a limit to the size of the Word document?
Yes, it's 5 meg, which is
right.
Reasonably big. I mean, I'm a graphic designer, and if I design a file which is 5 meg, that's quite large. I know what you're saying within a Word document, but if you were to compress it into a PDF, that might just reduce the size of it down a little bit.
Yeah, you can actually reduce photos down to to a thumbnail size, and then insert that, and it wouldn't probably burst the 5 meg. But it's worthwhile to know that
the flip to that, Mark, is that you make sure that the picture is still, you can still see what's going on. The resolution's not being deteriorated too much.
Yeah. Okay. Yep, that's fine. That was my questions, really.
Okay. Andy, is that a legacy hand or?
So is it the grey pipe that's
legacy hand?
Okay.
I'll put that down.
We heard grey pipe bits just coming through. I think is that?
Yeah.
Could somebody go on mute? Is that Catherine? Right? Oops.
No, that's right. It's.
I'm going to mute everybody here.
I'm trying to narrow down where it.
Okay, Nora, I've put everybody on mute, but can you unmute yourself? Yeah, thank you.
I'll unmute myself again. I mentioned this to you specifically before. Obviously, my company is very, very young. And initially, my question would have been, how young is too young? But then you sort of answered that. I think my biggest fear is, I mean, I can build a case for myself and for the company from my vision and my dreams, and I'm happy with that. And I'm also happy with taking this almost like a test run for future. But I don't really want to come across as naive and then potentially lose credibility for the future, if that makes sense.
So the question is,
is it really worth for me to go for this year, do you think? I just don't, yeah, I'm not, not 100% convinced whether yeah, so the question is still, how young is too young?
Okay. I would say you can never be too young. I mean, if it's a week old, then I'll possibly say, yes, that is a little bit too young. But in your circumstance and what you're doing, I wouldn't. I think there's only kind of gains you're going to get out of this. I think one is, I think we all need every now and then this space to actually review and think what we are doing in our work. And I think if it gives you that opportunity just to kind of answer the questions, it may just help me think, actually, do you know, maybe I should be doing this or I could be doing that. But as I said at the beginning, a lot of people have done it and thought, do you know, you're doing more than you actually give yourself credit for. So I personally think it is always valuable. In terms of discretion, in terms of that sense of you're giving a part of yourself out to this, the reality of it is that you are only giving yourself out to 3 judges, and these judges have been around the block a bit. They know what businesses go through. They are familiar with it. So there's nothing to be embarrassed about. There's nothing to feel insecure about, and it is kept in complete discretion. If you proceed to the finalist bit and in terms of the judging day, in terms of the scores, then there may be an element of, well, this business does that, and they just check on things. But that is it. It's a very discreet, almost what happens in the awards stays in the awards. It doesn't go out beyond that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Nora. Catherine. And you're mute. You're mute. Sorry.
Sorry. I just wanted to ask you, following up on that, so any information we provide as part of the award, so be that figures and achievements and things, that's confidential, is that correct?
That is correct.
Cool, excellent.
It does not get shared beyond the judges given clear parameters that the information is not to be shared. That is very private and locked in.
And would we know who the judges are before they actually judge the entry? For example, it's unlikely, but for example, your main competitor could happen to be a judge.
No, that's a good question. What we do is we always ask the judges for any potential conflict of interest, whether it's a competitor or something like that. So when it comes to the judging, it's used online as well as on the judging days. So there's no conflict of interest. But the judges, we will be getting the material uploaded onto the website shortly. And then you can see who is there. There's essentially the judges. Primarily, we have 2 judges from the university, 1 from the college, 2 from the council, then from our category sponsors from Holland, Hahn and Wills, IQ and IT, Kingston First, Laboo Media, Pearson Hards, Russell Cook, Unilever and Walters Clere, Doubletree Hilton and now Rotary. But as I said, we are very keen that there is no conflict of interest and they have to declare that.
Cool, thank you.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah, that's fine, thanks.
Thank you, Catherine. Robin, I always smile when I see people online sitting in their cars. I know you're not driving, which is good, but it just goes to show how technology can go everywhere.
I know, I was driving, that's why I had my video off initially. But I pulled over, I'm just parked for a little bit to do this call.
Thank you.
So, yeah.
Any other questions? Nora, you still got, is that a legacy hand as they call it? No. Okay. Any other thoughts or questions? Suzanne, you're fine? Okay. Rob, you're fine? Okay. So to wrap it up and let you move on or drive away for Robin, remember the essentials is, remember you're trying to explain this to somebody who has not met you, does not know anything about your business, and you're telling them a story. You're telling them what are the benefits, what was new that you created, what makes you different from the next set of people. Share your personality, give it your own voice. Share that, and if you can add testimonials, if you can show what the benefits are, that will go a long way. The judges are honestly very, very open-minded. That is why I'm really pleased with the breadth of judges that we've got and their different experiences, is that they enter this in a very open-minded way, and they actually, all of them after the judging day said, can we do this again? They really enjoyed being a part of this, and a lot of that comes down to the people like you who've put in the hard work to put in their entry. Claire, you're on mute.
Sorry. So I've asked for a couple of extra testimonials from people, which I suspect might not come in on time. So if I submit by the 9th as the date, and then it gets delayed to the 12th, can I still go in and fiddle with it till the 12th? Obviously you haven't extended the deadline, but if you did.
I think, to be honest, once you've submitted, you've submitted.
Okay, fine.
Yeah,
that's fine. And when you
I'm not sure that the portal allows you that chance to update. Sorry, you can say something else.
When will you communicate about whether there's an extension? Will it be before?
It will be. It'll probably, this is what day? This is Wednesday, isn't it? Yeah, I should imagine it's going to be the very beginning of next week, to give everybody as much time as possible. I mean, we're really pleased with the responses so far. It's been stronger than last year, but what we discovered last year was that almost from the original date of the entries to when it closed, it just went up like that. And I think people are aware that awards tend to slightly extend, but we are just yeah, there probably will be a little window.
Cool, thank you.
Great. Well, I'll let you go unless there's any other further questions, but thank you so much for coming on board. If there is anything afterwards which you think I should have asked, please just drop me an email. I think most of you have got it. And before I finish, Mark.
Right, sorry, very quick question. When is the recording of this file going to be available to us? Because it's got a lot of ad hoc hints and tips, and if you're trying to type something up and get some inspiration, it'd be really nice to be able to just listen to some of what you've been saying, Forbes.
I hope it's going to be available very, very quickly. I'm not the world's best IT person, so but I should imagine it should be fairly immediate, to be honest, in the next day or two.
Right. Cool.
Great.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, everybody. And as I say, any further questions, please don't hesitate to contact me, and we'll try and help you.
Thanks, Forbes.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Cheers.
Take care.
Thanks, Forbes.
Bye now. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.